Hello
Hi.
and
It's the first time that
welcome.
we managed to do it almost without interrupting each other. Almost.
Nope. At the end, we did. It can't be that good. We have to fuck it up a little bit at least.
That's our personal style. Hopefully, you're here for it.
Should we actually say the name of the podcast, or should we just skip
Yes, go ahead.
that? Hello and welcome to Xena Made Me Gay.
In the times of brick phones, Tamagotchis, and curtain bangs, the 90s kids cried out for a badass. She was Xena, the warrior princess. The kicks, the moves, the nostalgia, the queerness. Xena made us gay.
Hi, I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Kris. And today we are. Sorry, and I'm a bit slow today, so bear with me. So, one of the things that I've been wondering, given that Xena is such an old show and it's gonna be 30 soon, in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the queer content that is available on TV these days is very different from Xena. So I'm curious whether Xena would have been even made today. And like, I think we can all agree that it wouldn't look the same if it were.
Nope.
So in what ways would it be different? That's what I'm wondering. Like, is it gonna be more of like a gritty like drama, where they like go deeper into exploring like the trauma of having committed war crimes that Xena is dealing with, and so kind of because I think they do touch on that topics, but mostly
They glide over it.
it's very lighthearted and very relaxed entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, yeah, sometimes they do touch on serious topics. So do you think they wouldn't be able to quite pull that off today? Did this lighthearted tone die with the 90s and early 2000s?
I think that there would be definitely pros and cons, but it seems that the Xena we know and love, I cannot see it being made today. Mainly, and this is in the cons territory, as already mentioned, right now, feminism and in some way queerness are just like raised on a flag when it comes to a lot of popular media. And it's like, oh, you want feminist character, let's make her feminist, so she's going to kick some ass and then she's going to deliver a speech about feminism in ancient Greece. So I feel like I'm enjoying Xena as I'm rewatching it right now, and I like that it doesn't have those cliches that a lot of the movies and series right now have, especially like, I know that you're not, it's not your jam, you're not watching a lot of those, but like in the superhero franchise, they have a lot of that. And I would assume that Xena would be along that realm of the superhero franchises. So that would be a con for me. But on the other hand, I would assume that they could be much more open with the theme of sapphic love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer that it would be a more explicitly gay show, because I think pretty much the main reason why Xena wasn't quite that was because of the network pushing back on that. But I think it's more interesting to think of the other aspects of the show. Like, the humor would definitely be different, even if there is still some in it. I think that so many jokes are just so 90s.
Yeah,
So that would have to be different. I think it would have to be more self-aware. Like Zeta would not be able to live the span of 1,000 years the way that she does in the original show. Like not actually, but if you see throughout the series all of the civilizations and historical events that she goes through, it has to be around 1,000 years that she's been around. um so they would
definitely.
have
Yeah.
to worry about this historical accuracy more, which is not inherently good or bad, but I think part of Xena's charm, the way that it exists, is in this like completely um flippant attitude towards historical accuracy. And they're like, yeah, I mean, nobody really knows this stuff anyway. So there's no reason to spend too much time and money on making this accurate, because like it doesn't matter really. What we're here to do is to make fun TV, and as long as it's not like super outrageous, like I don't know, it's not industrial revolution or something, people are gonna just let it slide. And I think a lot of them did.
We definitely did.
Yeah, yeah, like as kids, everything looks fine.
Yeah.
But then I think you would, in the age of Twitter and people being like, "Oh, I noticed in the background of this shot in this in on at like 7 minutes and 37 seconds, you can see in the left corner of the shot that there's a reflection of a tire of a bus."
Oh yeah.
Like that's the kind of media landscape that we live in. And
Yeah. The Starbucks
Xena,
coffee cup and Game of Thrones, like that sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I think it goes even more extreme sometimes, where you're just like, oh, if you zoom in this particular shot, you will be able to see the traces of a bicycle or whatever. um
Yeah,
and so
for sure.
in this environment, you can't like put ancient Egypt and medieval Europe in back-to-back episodes.
That's true. And like even more intentional campy stuff like ancient Greek supermarket. Like I think
Yes.
what we love about Xena in a lot of ways is that it's being able to mix the tone very well actually, and it works somehow because there are episodes that are like we haven't reviewed those yet, but like they're completely campy and very outrageous things happen, and it seems like it's like a totally humorous show that doesn't take itself too seriously, and then the next episode you could have this serious character development and dilemma, and that completely works. And I think that in this day and age it's like pick a lane. Are you a complete comedy, are you a campy comedy, or are you a serious drama? Because the Twitter, yeah, as you say, like they won't forgive. So that mix of tones and that campiness that we enjoy so much, yeah, I don't think that it could have been realized.
Yeah, yeah. And also I think Xena was actually, so I don't know this, but I'm making an assumption here. I'm making an assumption here that
Yeah,
Xena was like a low to mid budget affair.
especially
um
at the beginning. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, because like yes, there's a lot of shooting outdoors, which is more expensive than doing studio. But from the set decorations, from like the caliber of actors, whatever, you can see that it's not, I don't know, something like a Netflix show nowadays where there's a huge budget. Um, and actually, like that also makes me wonder, like, do these kinds of shows even get made these days? Because I think at this point the streaming services are not really making those types of shows. It's very much a like a network TV thing, and nobody watches TV anymore. Everyone's on streaming.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are miracle unicorns like Schitt's Creek that
Yes, yes. Also, like a non US production, the same as Xena, the Kiwi production.
yes, yes. So, and with Schitt's Creek, it's the same thing. Like at the beginning, you could see that the budget was pretty low, and like towards later seasons, they could afford to have a more elaborate set. So, yeah, it does get made, but it's very niche. But I think the same with Xena. Xena was also kind of niche, especially when it got its cult following of queer people, like a lot of percentage at least, I would assume, which
Hmm.
makes it even more niche. So
I don't know. In my head, it wasn't particularly niche. In my head, it was like fairly widely watched. Actually, I'd be curious to compare the numbers for Xena and for some of the other shows, TV shows from the time that we mentioned in the first episode, and see how those compare.
no, we should definitely do that. I'm just saying that from what I know, and I have a very weird barometer because it's like early days of internet in Russia. So I have been hanging out on Xena fan forum and Xena fan chat, and it was very explicitly queer. A lot of fans that I communicated with were openly gay. So
Of course.
I don't know. I think that it also is like when you compare people who watched it overall and people who were standing Xena enough to go on a fan forum or fan chat.
Exactly, exactly. I think that's the important distinction. Like it's possible that a lot more people were watching it, including those that are sadly entirely heterosexual. But maybe
We don't judge. We judge a little bit.
I judge. Get those nuts away from my face.
It's okay. I even have straight friends. It's fine.
Wow, wow, good for you.
I'm very open minded.
Yeah, yeah, more so than me. All right, so let's proceed to the episode. And the episode is called The Titans.
Episode 7.
Episode 7, The Titans. Yeah. You see the title, you can safely assume that there will be some Titans in the episode. We've had more mysterious titles before, but this one just tells you what to expect. And you should expect the Titans.
Yes, yes. And this episode actually opens in the middle of a storyline already because I think that it feels like usually we get some sort of establishing shot, like some music, some trees. Here, no. We open right in the middle of a story and we see Xena, who for some reason capture a guy from a street gang, as they're called in this universe, ruffians, and you can recognize ruffians. If there are a couple of guys with weapons and black leather, those are ruffians, and Xena wants to capture the main guy or something.
Yeah, and she knows the main guy personally. So it seems like
Yeah,
it's this like very tight knit community. Of the ancient Greek crime world is just one big happy family, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, bruh, haven't seen you in a few years. What you been up to?"
aw.
Maybe they have like conventions that they go to, like team retreats. I don't know.
Xena was a regular. Xena was a VIP
Oh
ruffian
yeah,
on a
oh
retreat,
yeah.
but yeah, she revoked her membership. Um, and we have a confirmation that they know each other because the leather dude was like, "Don't you ever give up," and Xena says, "On you, never."
Yeah, yeah, weird, like quasi flirting from Xena, which sure. The interesting thing that happens when she confronts these baddies is that she for some reason decides to drop her weapons. So she demonstrably drops her weapons. Uh, like is she trying to spice things up? Maybe Gabrielle made her give up some of her bad habits. I don't know. and now she's looking for that extra kick elsewhere. um I don't know. But I guess it's fine because if you can backflip 3 times up a tree, which is literally what happens, I guess weapons are kind of superfluous anyway, so you might as well just do that. Yep.
Yeah, maybe she just needed a workout.
Yeah, yeah, it could be that. Although it seems like the baddies also don't really have weapons or they don't use them. I didn't see any used during the fight. Maybe they have like a no weapon November um situation, just like decompress, leave your weapon at home, don't check your weapon, just be in the moment.
So it's like another fight with incredibly low stakes because we completely like there's no doubt that Xena is going to win there. And it's just for our viewing pleasure. But in the meantime, Gabrielle is trying to tend to Argo and trying to give Argo a snack. And Xena summons Argo because the main baddie escapes on horseback. And then, after a few seconds, Gabrielle leisurely brings Xena her horse. And Xena's like, "Oh, I missed the baddie." And Gabby is sorry. And Xena says, "Don't be sorry, just improve."
That's kind of hot, honestly.
I don't know. It's a little demeaning.
It is, but I think like it's not hot if you're Gabrielle, but like watching that, I was like, yeah, Xena, discipline me.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a spicy thing for the audience, I guess. After being reprimanded by Xena, Gabrielle casually walks into a cave and casually walks into some sort of ritual being made. Some people reading a sacred chant, and it's a language that we don't know. I don't know if it's made up or it's just like some some language that they borrowed and like, okay, this is going to be ancient Greek chanting language. But that was so interesting to rewatch because I immediately remembered this chant. No, I had no idea what's going on. I forgot this episode completely. I didn't remember what they were trying to do, but I remember almost word for word what the main priestess was saying. That was very trippy.
Wow. I mean, I immediately recognized the chant. I was like, oh yeah, it's the
Yasu
but
kalimera, yasu kalenoche.
yes, yes. So I, unlike you, I don't remember the words, but it did get edged into my brain somehow. I guess it's repeated like
Right?
1,000 times throughout the episode. But yeah, funny how I didn't remember the episode, but the chant was like, oh yeah, 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 that happened.
It's interesting that we remember random sounds, but not the plot. But anyway, in terms of the plot, Gabrielle comes up to the people trying to make some sort of ritual, and they're like, "Oh, you're doing it all wrong. You have to read it like this and this and this. Like you have to put a different emphasis on the different syllable." And she grabs the scroll and reads it without having any idea what's going on. Like, did you think that was like a poetry recital or something? Like, those people are they're dressed like we're going to resurrect some ancient demon, or in this case, ancient titan. But she's just like, no, let me try and help those people do whatever ritual they're intending to do without knowing the reason.
Yeah, and that brings me actually to this regular part of our podcast, which is me making a case that Xena has influenced all of the pop culture ever that has been created since Xena aired. Because
Bring it on.
someone reading a chant or some kind of a spell without really knowing what it's gonna do is exactly what happens in The Mummy, which was released in 1999. So it's totally reasonable that one of the writers saw this episode and was like, ooh, what if someone finds this spell in this book and reads that out and that causes some resurrection of the Mummy? What if that happens? I mean, yes, I know that the 1999 Mummy is a remake of the original 30s Mummy, Don't come at me. But I I don't think that this connection is unreasonable, especially given that there'll be another thing later this episode that connects the two.
Ooh, okay. I'm curious to know. But no mummies arise. But Gabrielle does liberate the Titans. That's how they call it. Like she liberates the Titans. But it is it is debatable how liberated are the Titans in the end. But yeah, the giant dudes that were turned to stone by the gods awaken, and they say,
Two dudes and one gal.
yeah, two dudes and one gal, and they say, oh, thank you for liberating us, the blessed virgin, or something like that. So they announce Gabrielle's dating status, or I don't know how to call it, like very much aloud, and she's not happy about that.
Yeah, so that was quite weird on a lot of levels, and we're gonna get into some of them in a moment. But I mean, it's fair to assume at this point that Xena and Gabrielle have fucked, right? Like they've been traveling together for like at least several weeks. They're together all of the time. They sleep together. They have this like interesting relationship. I think it's a fair assumption to make that they have had sex at this point.
Hmm,
No, you don't think so?
I don't know if I agree. No, I don't actually think so, because, and I'm not very certain because I haven't rewatched the series in a long time, but there is an episode, I think closer to the end of season 1, maybe beginning of season 2, that I kind of think, I have a theory that this happened then. So I think that at this point,
Ooh.
my theory is that at this point they're like still like, oh, we're friends, like, I want to kiss her, and like for some reason I'm jealous, but we're friends,
Uh
we're friends.
uh. Okay, okay. Let's go with your understanding of things. Maybe that's fair. Regardless of this, we're on episode 5, and the topic of virginity has been extremely present so far.
Oh yes, oh yes, the topic of virginity is extremely present. It's very interesting how this show defines virginity, because, and it's actually one of the good aspects, that in a lot of ways in in Xena's universe, it seems that virginity in terms of not killing anyone is more important than virginity of like not banging. But at this case, it seems like virginity has very classic meaning of someone, aka a girl, um, hasn't had sex yet, and
But a particular kind of sex, I think they mean. I think it's specifically
penetrative.
being penetrated with a penis in your vagina.
It is widely known that a vagina cannot experience any pleasure without a penis present in it, right? I think it was the quote for the movie, from the movie Hysteria. But yeah, it seems that it's like a very classical understanding of like what virginity is and isn't, and I cannot decide if the showrunners kind of make fun of that classic understanding or use it as a plot point because it's such a well-known and established thing. Because like I think, speaking of Xena being made today, I think today, at least in the more progressive circles, we're kind of like moving away from the concept of virginity overall, because it's kind of dumb.
Yes. Um Absolutely. And that also made me wonder because it just seems like such a conservative concept just in and of
Hmm.
itself. The fact that it's a thing that exists and can go away and then it's gone and then that like makes you a different kind of person, which is very strong theme so far in the series. um like I do think that it's just a sign of the times, not not being very woke.
For sure, for sure. And I think I saw some documentary about the 90s show, like Dawson's Creek and like the Beverly Hills 91210. And I think there was a study of like how did they depict sexual relationships there, and the pushback that they got from the audience. Also, that those are mm, U.S. shows that is a whole other can of worms when it comes to virginity.
Yep.
But I think like in Beverly Hills, there was like an episode where when one of the main characters had sex, and it was such a strong pushback that then, like in another season, there was a similar episode where one of the characters had sex, had a pregnancy scare, and was like regretting it big time. So like
Oh God.
if you lose your quote unquote virginity, you have to be punished. So yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like so in Xena so far we've had virginity as kind of a desirable thing for religious purposes two times, and
Yeah.
then one time that put you in the position of becoming a human sacrifice, which is like ouch, not great.
Yep. Yep.
So you're in more danger because you're a virgin. And then in this one, as we're gonna see, it puts you in a position of power but also responsibility and kind of being complicit in a world war. I think. So yeah, so far I would say the show has not made a great case for being a virgin.
Oh yeah, no, no, that's better to avoid that as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. So it's established that Gabrielle is a virgin, and the Titans recognize her as the one that liberated them. They kneel for her and pledge themselves to her. One of them isn't like super on board with that. He's a bit uncertain. He still does it, but he's like, something's not quite right here. Maybe he also has doubts about Gabrielle's virginity, just as just as I do.
Yeah, what constitutes a virgin? It's,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm just going to say that on the other end of the story, while Gabrielle is liberating the Titans, Xena continues on her bounty hunting mission.
Yeah, she follows the baddie that escaped on horseback into a tavern. From what I understand, around 70% of all establishments in ancient Greece are taverns.
Yep, yep.
It's- we see, I think, at least one per episode.
Yeah, in every village.
In every village, there is a tavern. Everywhere we go, there's always a tavern, and like that that kind of makes me wonder, like, how popular were taverns actually in ancient Greece? Like, how many were there? I don't know.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, so she follows the baddie into a tavern, and he takes a hostage and threatens to harm the hostage if Xena doesn't let him go.
Yeah, and Xena does a funny bit where he takes the hostage and you can see that he's alone. And Xena was like, okay, okay, you got me. Go ahead, leave. I'll just sit here quietly. And she just like sits on a bench and makes this good girl look. And we, as the audience, we can see no, no, something's up.
Yeah, of course. And she manages to attack him while he's walking out and liberate the hostage for a moment, but as soon as that happens, the rest of the baddies arrive.
Yeah, so it seems for a while that for a moment that Xena is outnumbered, but then of course we see I think like the roof of the house is being torn or something, like so we
I think
see
so.
the Titans interfere, and Gabrielle is standing proudly like a proud slave owner. Yeah.
Yeah, and she like saves Xena, which i I guess thanks, but everything that we've seen so far suggests that Xena wouldn't have necessarily had any trouble dispensing with that group. Like she literally just did earlier this episode. The same group of people. She didn't even use any weapons. and and unlike
Yeah.
another tavern that we saw earlier, this doesn't seem to be a please check your weapons at the door type of tavern.
Yeah. Well, this one is empty, almost empty actually. So like the only hostage was the guy I think behind the bar or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Gabby is very proud of saving Xena because I think that what is established earlier in the episode when Xena reprimands Gabrielle and Gabrielle is kind of trying to prove herself to Xena several times during the episode and she's feeling very proud right now.
Yeah. So then we see a little more of the Titans, and it's interesting that the Titans here, they're just like essentially very large humans in terms of how they look. And I understand like the budget reasons for that, absolutely. I think the immediate association that I have is with Disney's Hercules, which also had
Mhm.
Titans, and there they are imagined these like animated clumps of rocks and tornadoes and stuff like that. Whereas here, it's just like this is Bob. Bob's a Titan.
Guys, Olympus would be that way. But I must say, I really liked the camera work and the casting there because we do see them as big. It's not like a green screen like Alice in Wonderland. Like you can see someone just being big, but you, you do not believe in them being strong and mighty. And here you
Mm.
kind of do.
Yeah, yeah, I think they did a great job with the budget that they had presenting these actors as Titans, and I think also something they did really well was being fairly consistent with what size they are,
Hmm.
which was also helpful. It's interesting though, given that they're so similar in appearance to humans, like, are they are they essentially like persons here? Because at
Hmm.
first it's unclear whether they have even their own wants and needs, like whether they're
Hmm.
just fancy genies. Because
Hmm.
that's how they act at the beginning. At some point, the crowd cheers for Gabrielle as the liberator of the Titans, but they don't feel very liberated. Like they're basically her
No.
slaves at this point, as you said.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have that question. It kind of seemed that they had the will of on their own, and as like they were pretty consistent as how the show shows other mythological creatures that we're going to encounter. But yes, they seem obliged to Gabrielle, and I don't know what the correct etiquette would be here. Like maybe Gabrielle should have asked for, I don't know, like in like Odysseus one favor, but Gabrielle just decides that she is going to exploit the Titans as long as she would want to,
Yeah.
and she immediately starts giving them chores.
Right. Yeah. And she also refers to herself as a goddess when speaking to them, and the baddie that Xena has captured for the bounty is about to correct her in front of the Titans, but he gets shut up by Xena's punch.
Yeah.
But also, like, I don't think before that moment it's established anywhere that Gabrielle needs to be a goddess. Like, I thought she just needed to be a virgin to liberate them. I'm confused. Like, you need to be both a goddess and a virgin. How many goddesses are virgins? Like,
Athena, that's it.
yeah. So it seems just like a very big ask. Like, be a goddess and also a virgin, and like go and do these things. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. It's also, I think that it's one thing is that what they expected, the dudes who wanted to resurrect the Titans, because like first it was not Gabrielle's idea in the first place, and the other thing is like what they got, because the Titans seem much less human loving as the dudes who were planning this ritual in the first place expected, and they kind of referred to Gabrielle as a goddess, and she just like, okay, I'm going to go with that, and
Hmm.
thus I'd be able to control that.
Yeah, because it seems like, I mean, obviously, it's unnecessary to be a goddess to resurrect them, but it is necessary to be a virgin. But they just like were like, oh, we're just gonna make this assumption that you're a goddess, and Gabrielle just decided to roll with it. It's
Yep, yep.
sure, yeah, okay. So we see the Titans doing their chores, and we find out, yeah, actually, they're indeed not feeling particularly liberated, especially the one that was skeptical from the get go. He's very unhappy about being sent to, as he says, play in the mud, even though he's the Lord of the Sky.
Yeah, yeah, and he's not happy about that, but the female Titan, I don't remember her name. Like, she's an interesting character actually.
I don't remember anyone's name.
Yeah, no. She tries to appease him. He's like, okay, let's plan some sexy times for later. And it seems that the Titans have some kind of a love triangle, but it's also going to be established later on. But for now, they're begrudgingly, some of them begrudgingly, and some of them more willingly, doing what Gabrielle asks them to do.
Yeah, and it seems like they don't want to kind of complain about anything to Gabrielle because they assume that she's a goddess and they don't want to cause her wrath.
Yeah.
Which is like liberated my ass. They're literally afraid of this person who is giving them orders and will possibly harm them if they don't do what she says. What kind of a fucking liberation is that?
Yeah, and it's interesting that Gabrielle is absolutely fine with it. She's like, um, later after this scene, we see the scene where she is accepting gifts from the villagers, and she's planning almost a world tour of like, me and my Titans, we're going to travel and we're going to save the world. And I kind of like this Gabby with a superiority complex that rings very true to me. Like, a lot of the times you kind of want to be a good person, but you don't only want to be a good person, you want to be praised for that and recognized for that. So I think that that's a nice sort of catch in terms of showrunners. Yeah, but Xena is very skeptical about Gabrielle's charade, and like, you can see that she's unimpressed. Like, the person that Gabrielle wanted to impress mostly is unimpressed. But luckily, one of the dudes who had the master plan of resurrecting the Titans in the first place is this cute boy toy that is agreeing with everything Gabrielle says, and he says that Gabby has the aura of a goddess. I really love how it's the mix of all genres and all cultures in Xena.
I mean, yeah, I mean, Xena is kind of quintessentially new age in its understanding of religion, where pretty much all religion is thrown in together because we have obviously a lot of ancient Greek gods, but we also have a bunch of pagan shit happening. We also
Yeah.
have
Hinduism is going to be prominent in the later seasons.
absolutely, we have that. I think
Christianity is thrown in there. Yep.
and it just not a lot of difference is made between those things, like they're not positioned as like mutually exclusive, just like one big happy family. And uh I think that's also something that is kind of the time,
Yeah, I guess,
with
yeah.
the late 90s, where like a lot of celebrities were like getting into Kabbalah and stuff like that.
This thing of, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Yeah. It's a bit like that. I kind of almost wish that there was a religious studies scholar that we knew that who could come on to the show as a guest and like tell us his take on the role of religion in Xena.
That's actually a good idea. Maybe end of the season, we do a bonus episode with a religious scholar. I happen to know one.
Yeah. So the Titans come back after a long day of work and they ask Gabrielle to feed them using her godly powers. And she's like, "Oh, uh,
I don't
uh,
use them for that.
uh." Like you can see her trying to come up with something and she just can't.
No, yeah, and Gabrielle was like, "Oh, you can share with the villagers. I'm sure they won't mind." And that doesn't go well with the angry Titan. Let's call him that, like the dude who was skeptical at the very beginning. So the goddess charade doesn't last long because the angry Titan blows on Gabrielle and is able to blow her away, and like she's no goddess.
Yeah, so he's about to stomp Gabrielle, but Xena pierces his foot, and then he gets even madder and starts destroying the village essentially, which also like visually works really well. And I think they're doing a great job there.
Basically then it's pure chaos. Everyone is running around, but the villagers manage to run to the temple and literally obtain sanctuary, because for titans those are sacred grounds too. It's a sacred place, so the titans do not tear the roof of the temple or something like that. Titans, and mainly the angry Titan who wanted to get Gabrielle and get Xena, he's like, okay, they're in the temple. We're going to retreat back to our cave. So the Titans are back into their cave, and they're simultaneously arguing, and it seems like they're planning a threesome, because there is like this very interesting dialogue where one of the Titans, like the bald-headed guy that seems nicer, is like, oh, I just am looking at this lady Titan as a friend. And the angry Titan says, well, you don't look at me like that. Why don't you look at me like that?
Yeah. It's like slightly ambiguous, and I wonder also whether it's slightly ambiguous on purpose there.
That's interesting, because in terms of exploring queer themes in Xena Warrior Princess, it seems that it's mostly sapphic. Like we have obviously Xena and Gabrielle, and like throughout the series there are going to be a lot of female characters that are, to that like one extent or the other, more or less obviously sapphic. But I wonder if gay love is explored. I think I remember one character who we would assume is gay, but I think that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely not nearly as prominent, and here it's unclear. It could go either way.
Absolutely. And also, it's ancient Greece. And if you read the myths of ancient Greece, like, those things were prominent there.
Exactly.
Back in the temple, where the main characters are, the temple is getting crowded because more and more villages come into the temple to escape from the Titans. And Gabby and her toy boy enjoy guilty flirting, because the toy boy is like, oh, it's all my fault. If I didn't have an idea to resurrect the Titans, nothing would have happened. And she's like, no, but you meant well. You're so good. Like, this relationship is very cringy.
It's horrible. I hated every second of that. Like their whole interaction is just the worst.
I agree. So the angry Titan, I guess, comes in and says that, not comes in the temple, but like comes near the temple and says that he's going to destroy all humans until Xena comes out.
Not like a gay.
Not like he's gay, but just comes out of the temple so he could capture her, because his plan is he wants to get to Xena to get to Gabrielle. It's not like, oh, maybe we can just call Gabrielle, but I guess he understands that to get to Gabrielle, he has to get through Xena first.
Sure. Well, Xena does say that she's Gabrielle's protector at one
Yeah,
point,
yeah. They call Gabrielle the sacred one, and she's like, I'm this sacred one's protector.
which is very cute.
I liked it. But anyway, some village women in the temple try to kind of push Xena out, this time unsuccessfully.
Yeah, and the baddie, the bounty hunted baddie, who's they're still dragging around, suggests that Xena just joins the Titans and kind of becomes their ally among humans and helps them take over the world. Which, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how well it's going to go. But anyway, like more things happen in the temple because some women say that their kids went on a holy walk. The fuck?
Yeah.
So like
Oh,
let's establish let's establish what's going on. There is a village with three titans that promise to kill everything human until something happens. All of the villagers are hiding in the temple. Where should we send our kids? On a holy walk.
well, I assume the kids went on the holy walk right before the carnage started.
What the fuck is the holy walk in the first place?
That is a very very good question. I have no idea. Sometimes you watch Xena and you're like, where did this come from? Like, you just you have to imagine the writer's room, and someone was like, yeah, so some kids should be in danger. How do we put the kids in danger? And someone was like, maybe they were out walking. Why were they out walking? Well, maybe it's like part of some like sacred ritual that the kids need to walk, and then they're like out and about. It's like, oh cool, so it's like a holy walk. It's like, yeah.
Uh,
It's amazing and I love it. From now on, every time I go to a park, I'm like, excuse me, I'm gonna go on a holy walk.
you cannot interrupt my holy walk.
Yeah,
That's sacred.
yeah. I'm gonna like block out time in my work calendar for holy walks.
Yeah.
Please do not disturb me. I'm busy.
Yeah. But of course, what happens when a bunch of kids go on a holy walk? Surely they run into titans. And I enjoyed how the dude who was supposed to be taking care of the kids is like the first one to just sprint away, leaving the kids behind. Like, fuck you, kids. I'm off.
Yeah. He's like, run, kids, run! And by the time he says the last word, he's already like 100 meters away from them.
Yeah. So the kids run into the cave where the rest of the titans are, of course. And then there is this argument of like, should we kill them while they're small or not?
Yeah, it's I don't really get the logic. I think the angry titan, he just wants to like start early with a human genocide, and um you know, first this like group of 10 kids and then the rest of humanity, sure. But
Yeah.
the other guy, the other titan guy, doesn't agree with this, and they get into a fist fight.
The titans get into a fight, and back in the temple, the ruffian who was dragged around is left on his own devices, kinda, because Xena needs to leave, and she gives one of the villagers the rope and says, guard him. So the ruffian, of course, starts talking the villager's ear off about, oh, we must make a deal with the Titans. We must give the Xena to the Titans, and the Titans would make us kings. And that's all well and good, but the only thing that it could concentrate on is that this villager, speaking of Christianity, has a very prominent Orthodox cross on his chest above his robes.
Yeah. Sure. Crosses were in fashion that season. I don't know. So as you said, Xena is away, and what she's doing is trying to save those kids. And she runs into the cave during the fight between the two male titans, and she sneaks the kids out while the titans are busy and not paying attention. And then the angry titan just straight up goes and murders the other one. Just, yep, pierces him with a stalactite, and that's it.
And then there were two. But also, I want to commend the showrunners here because it's almost happening in slow motion, and like the Titans are moving in slow motion almost. And you could feel how giant they are because of that. So I enjoyed it. I like how the Titans are executed here.
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice touch. Um, then Xena brings the kids back to the temple and is immediately captured in a net. So some villagers don't agree with the fact that she's captured to be given over to the Titans, but those people are silenced quickly enough, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Yeah, they were like, but she rescued your kids, and they're like, yeah, okay, we don't give a shit.
So the baddie knocks Xena out. He kind of spearheads this whole initiative. They tie her up and then they transport her in this little crate on wheels. She obviously easily escapes from the ropes that are tied around her wrists while in the crate, so sneakily when no one's watching. And the baddie goes to the two remaining titans, and he wants to first confirm that he will get rewarded for delivering Xena to them.
I really like this piece of dialogue there. That the baddie says, I don't expect you to make me king. I just want to be your associate. How very corporate of him.
Yeah, yeah, it's very very cute.
Titans and associates.
Yeah, yeah. It's very nice. So he
Mhm.
gets the confirmation and he presents the crate with Xena, but there's no Xena in it.
Surprise.
So the baddie gets squashed.
Hmm.
So then the two remaining titans are arguing about this like light murder spree that one of them is on with killing one of their own and then squashing the baddie. Um, and Xena walks in on their conversation unnoticed, so she just like listens in. So there we find out that the Titans are planning a war against the gods and intending to awaken hundreds more of the Titans in order for that to happen. Xena hears that, comes back to the village to the villagers in the temple, and is like, "Whoa! First of all, hey, I'm back." And Gabrielle's like, "Duh, I knew this would happen. I was chill." Um, and everyone's like, "Oh, cool, cool, cool." And then Xena tells them, "So here's the deal: the Titans, they're going to continue wreaking havoc. They're going to destroy everything, regardless of what happens to me or Gabrielle. So you can just like forget about that part." And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, 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 cool, 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 cool." Um, yeah, so everyone's like, "Oh yeah, right, cool, Xena. Oh my god, you're so right. We love you." You know?
Yeah, the
Just 10 minutes ago they were ready to sacrifice her and murder her.
sacrifice her. Yeah, yeah, like it's like one of those jokes where like, do are you going to survive till next episode if you're like a character of a series like Xena Warrior Princess? It's like if your name is Villager 5, then probably not. So like when they're just abstract villagers or abstract warriors or abstract ruffians, the showrunners are not really trying to make them authentic or have any sort of logic. They're just like, and then people did this, and then people did that. So it's just for saving the time's sake, I guess. But on the other hand, sometimes large numbers of people are not really logical when they gather together, so why not?
Then the annoying lovebirds,
Ugh.
Gabrielle and the boy toy, they come up to Xena and they tell her that Gabrielle can actually turn the Titans back into stone if she reads a different chant. Not the one that she read, the different. And Xena's like, no. Gabrielle complains that Xena doesn't respect her, and it seems like immediately like, goes and sublimates her frustration by fucking the boy toy.
Yep.
That is kind of heavily implied because Xena sees them cuddling in the morning and becomes super jealous. Like you can see on her face, she's not happy with this.
No.
Yeah, if we're going with your version of events, which I think is fair. At this point, they don't really think of themselves as a couple, but they behave
Mm-hmm.
as a couple in a lot of ways, and they just kind of they have also like made their own assumptions about whether or not they're exclusive or not. Which,
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, kids. And then Gabrielle like go ahead goes ahead and confronts Xena about her jealousy.
She's
And
like, what?
yeah, like, we're not, this is not a thing, like I can go and do whatever I want. And Xena's like, I think Xena really didn't expect to be confronted about it as strongly. It seems to me that maybe Xena is like a little bit more aware of what's happening between her and Gabrielle than Gabrielle is. Like Gabrielle is just this like, oh, I just love Xena so much, and then like her feelings are intense, but she just doesn't go further than the feeling itself. Whereas Xena is kind of the older and the more mature ones. Like, uh, mm, okay,
Okay, so we're doing this now. Okay.
yeah. And I think she doesn't expect then to get this confrontation from Gabrielle that means more to her because she understands better what's going on. And so Xena refuses to engage. Very healthy. Congratulations, Xena. Great partnership skills. And then Gabrielle again sublimates her frustration by sneaking into the Titan cave and stealing the script with a chant that she's supposed to read that would turn the Titans back into stone. And the Titans trap her like, immediately as soon as she grabs it.
Of course, of course. But I really enjoyed this jealous interaction. I think that that gives us a lot of insight in their relationship right now and how, as I said, like unpronounced and unrealized by some of the parties it is. So yeah, I think that that's my favorite part of this episode, of this underlining plot of jealousy between Xena and Gabrielle.
Yeah. It's, I mean, obviously, like you can have a great relationship without jealousy, but
Yeah.
here it's like an extra indication that what is happening is not just like, oh, they're just great friends.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a little more than that.
So the Titans capture Gabrielle and they want her to read the chant that would awaken hundreds of other Titans. And obviously, she doesn't want to do that, so she tells them stories instead. And she's pretty good at telling stories. That's already been established. So that works for some time. One of the Titans is actually quite into it. The female Titan is like, "Oh yeah, tell us another one," but the angry one, understandably, isn't. And he does put his giant foot down and wants to make her read the chant. And so she stalls by putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, yeah.
A way to like still read the chant, but not.
I don't know. But anyway, what Gabrielle claims is that it's not working because she's not a virgin anymore. Haha. And I like how the Titan gets immediately angry and immediately starts slut shaming her because like his next remark is like, "You little harlot."
But Xena arrives just at the right moment. She and the villagers have constructed this elaborate trap. So she traps the angry Titan's hand and
Uh-huh.
is about to kill him, but is talked out of it by the other one, by the female Titan, and is asked just to turn them back into stone instead.
Which is quite sad if you consider the female Titan. But of course, the angry Titan protests, and he says like it won't work, like it needs to be read by a virgin. And Gabby's like, "JK, I'm still in my chant reading days, if you know what I mean." And her and Xena then have this also very mommy-esque scene of like two people needed to read from the scroll, and the scroll is being thrown from one side of the cave to the other.
Yeah. That's exactly what I meant when I said that there
Right?
was another mummy reference. Finally, they managed to get the whole chant out and save the day, and the Titans are turned into stone.
Yes, and I also what I enjoyed about this scene, like about my favorite part of this plot, is how when Gabby says like, "No, just kidding, I'm still a virgin," this relieved look on Xena's face, like it's very subtle. Lucy Lawless is brilliant at those really subtle facial expressions, but you can see like she's like, "Oh, okay, okay."
Aww.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
It is very sweet. So after everyone celebrates the fact that the Titans are back in stone form, Gabriel says goodbye to the guy, and ugh, they like confess to each other that they were almost each other's first. So gross. Just, just,
Yeah, it's
uh,
and I don't know if I want to explore it further because it grosses you out. But like, I wonder what did happen that night. Like,
hmm.
just some cuddling and making out, light petting. Like, what constitutes sex that makes you not a virgin in the Xena universe? Or like, it's this thing where like until a penis penetrates vagina, everything else is like. We were not each other's first, but you know, we did a lot of things that night.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you dry hump, you can still liberate the Titans. Which I think is like a fair assumption in terms of what happened that night. I think there's like some making out, like groping, but like no clothes came off.
I
Some like
guess. Yeah.
grinding here and there. Maybe the boy toy jizzed in his pants.
Definitely. Like in about 30 seconds.
Like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Ah.
Cool. Well, it's good to have established that.
Absolutely. It's a perfect note to end this episode review on. And I wanted to ask you, how many chakrams do you give this episode?
I would say it was kind of okay. It was not particularly good. It was not particularly bad. I really hated the boy toy, so I'm definitely deducting an extra point for the boy toy, which leaves us maybe at 5.
Hmm. I I was also thinking 5 or 6, but yeah, 5 is a generous assumption. I don't think that it's 6 material. There are definitely better episodes, but this one is very middle of the road one. That's very solid.
It's middle of the road. I think what elevates is are the creative solutions that the crew came up with to make the giants work so well as they did, and
Hmm.
the the gross virginity discourse and the boy toy are kind of bringing it back down to the middle ground.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's agree on 5 for this episode.
Cool. And that concludes our discussion. Thank you for listening, and hopefully you'll join us again to hear about season 1 of Xena, the Warrior Princess.
That's a perfect ending. We're ending on that. Bye.